So we have been in Ezra for 2 weeks. The Bible study, of course, is supposed to be in Nehemiah. But I love how we can't even think about having Nehemiah until we get through Ezra. And the fact of the matter is, Jerusalem, the walls are down, the gates are burned by fire, and it's by the grace of God that they weren't able to rebuild these walls. It's fantastic, and you're asking me, the grace of God, what do you mean by that? They're living in rubble, they're living in a mess. They are one hot mess, absolutely. But in spite of that, in verse 2, there's hope. And why is there hope? There's hope because God's presence was there the whole time. God just beckoned Ezra to come and plead with his people, to yell at him and condemn him, to condemn them. No. He sent Ezra to pray and to plead on behalf of his people because he loved them more than anything. And here in Ezra chapter 10, it is awesome. Verses 1 through 4, we have nothing but the gospel. It is the gospel. Come to me. I have come. Jesus has come, and he came to forgive our sins because there was this gap, and he created us with his own hands from the dust of the ground with a God-shaped soul, purely because we were created to need him. And there is this gap called sin. And so God himself came down to fix that gap, and his name is Jesus. And these people here in Ezra, you hear all throughout the Bible, God's people praying for deliverance. These people in Ezra weren't praying for God to deliver them. They weren't praying for God to forgive them. They weren't even looking for God. God wasn't on their radar. They were on God's radar. It's not what we do, it's who we are that draws him to us. And he was not about to let his people stay in their sin. He was coming to do something about it. So in spite of their failures, in spite of their past mistakes, in spite of who they were, there was hope. And that hope is that God is right in the middle of it. And I don't know what you're going through, and I don't know what kind of mess your life is in, and I don't know what you've done in your past, what you're doing in your present. But I do know that you are watching this, and God is in the center of your life, calling you, wooing you, loving you, begging you, will you just come? And here in Ezra chapter 10, they came and they confessed, and they just laid it out. God, we have sinned, and this is what we have done. Will you lay it out to God? We have sinned, and this is what we have done. And God is gracious. And while we were enemies, and while they were lifting their fists to God, he came for them and died for them. He came for you, and he died for you. He came for me, and he died for me when we weren't looking for it, when we weren't asking him for it, when we weren't begging him for it. He loved us anyway, and he loves you anyway, and he came to restore your soul. It is not about the walls. It is about restoring the hearts of God's people to himself. Will you allow him to restore your heart back to your Creator? You were created to need him. You were created to walk with him. And he died to make it possible. Stay in Ezra 10. There is a lot in there.